Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at vocabulary choices and word choices and look at different ways that you can use these to improve your writing. Our goals for today are to look at what vocabulary is, why it's important in writing, and how a writer can use vocabulary word choices to edit and improve their writing. So let's take a look at what vocabulary is. So when we're talking about words, we're talking about vocabulary choices. What we're referring to here are not just the words themselves and the literal meanings, although those are very important, but also the artistic use of language, such as figurative language, and the ability to take words and combine them in different ways to create style of varying kinds within the writing. Our word choices can be very powerful in terms of creating a tone or a mood within a certain piece of writing. And the words that are chosen certainly determine the strength of the piece. They can be quite a driving force in taking a piece from being kind of mediocre to making it very, very interesting. Not only are our words important, but the way that those words are combined, the way that they are placed together, and the way that they're organized can be very important. That can take us from our literal meanings to what we call figurative language, which is where a writer is not using literal meanings. Let's take a look here at two different very small pieces of writing. One is on high school level and one is below high school level. On the left here we have a very simple piece. Dear President, I think that you should add a playground for kids to play. The neighborhood kids want a place to play that would be nice and clean. Very simple piece of writing, not particularly interesting, and very bland in its use of word choice. On the right, Dear HOA President, our community is one that has always prided itself on being a safe zone where kids can play and adults can congregate and create an amiable community. Notice that there is no playground or safe place for kids to play outdoors. If the local children had a secure outdoor place to play, our community would improve significantly. So we can see here on the right that just by changing our words around, adding in and improving the vocabulary by choosing more specific words, more descriptive words, words that give us a clearer picture, they can create those mental pictures in our minds and really help the reader to understand much more depth and breadth of information here and what the writer is talking about. A great way to use your vocabulary and your word choices is by using figurative language. This is where the writer is not using literal language, but is using words and phrases together in a way that will create figurative meanings. So these are things like similes, metaphors, the other items that are in the list here, onomatopoeia, personification, and so forth. Let's take a look at some specific examples so that you can get an idea of what these are and start to formulate how you might use them. In terms of metaphors and similes, we've got some examples here. My love is like a red, red rose. A mighty fortress is our wall. Character assassination. They were like lambs for the slaughter. This computer is like a brick, and this computer is a brick. So here what we have are comparison between two things. When we use the words like or as, it's a simile. When we do not use the words like or as, it is a metaphor. But besides that, the two different kinds of figurative language, the two comparisons there are very similar, and the way that we're using them are pretty similar too. When we use colorful, academic, and professional words, these can truly elaborate upon a simple piece of information so that we can take it from being kind of average or boring, even dull, and take it to being very interesting and exciting. Let's take a look at these two descriptions here of grilled cheese sandwich. The first option is, I like grilled cheese sandwiches. Do you want one? In this example here, we don't have a lot of description. We don't have a lot of specific kind of in-depth types of word use. Let's take a look at the example under the first part there, option number 2. Have you ever swooned amidst the creamy lusciousness of a camembert and brie combination? Now think of sweet, soft melted cheese with tart apple slices. That is the grilled cheese sandwich. Half tasty tart explosion, half creamy luscious paradise. Do you want one? So in the second example here, we have a lot more words, a lot more descriptive words, words that give us a lot of different types of descriptions. So we've got visual description, we've got taste description, we've got smell. We've got a lot of more information here that takes the reader from just understanding in the first example, okay, it's a grilled cheese sandwich, to the second example where the reader can almost taste that sandwich. It's so incredibly descriptive. So why would it be important to watch out for the kinds of words and the phrases that you're using in your writing? If you're not careful with what you're doing, if you're not attentive to your words that you choose, your words and your writing and yourself, the way that those represent you, can come across as being boring, unintelligent, incapable, uncaring, and so forth. Keep in mind that your writing is a representation of you. It's a representation of what you do, how you think, and the product that you produce. So when people take a look at your writing, they will make judgments about you based upon your writing. You want those judgments to be as positive as they can possibly be. So therefore, you want to be very careful and attentive to your words that you choose. Let's take a look at this example here. We're evaluating for vocabulary. Today we went to the store and bought our groceries. It was really busy because there were so many people there. When it was about to snow, people buy more groceries. I wish we had more time to go to a movie or something. So here, this piece of writing, I would expect that this is written by kind of an early elementary student. It's got basic information here. It's not very in-depth, and the word choice is not very complex. Things not to do in your writing, particularly when you're looking at your word choice, your vocabulary choices. You don't want to be overly wordy because that can be really overwhelming to your reader. You don't want to be vague or unclear. You want to give your reader really specific, good, in-depth details. When you're awkward or misusing your words, that can be very confusing to your reader. And once you are confusing, then your reader doesn't understand what's going on. It will snap the reader out of your writing. It will kind of break that connection between writer and reader. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that your words that you're using have positive connotations, connotations that refer to the theme and the content of your writing, that your pronouns are very clear, that any kind of technical terms that you're using are spelled out and clear for your readers so that your reader isn't confused. Make sure that as you're going through your editing and revising process, that you're clarifying the different elements of your words and your vocabulary. You want to make sure that you're being clear without being too complex or too simple. It's kind of a fine balance that you've got to find in the middle. So questions to look at when you're editing your piece. Do I know all the definitions for the words I've used? You don't just want to know the definitions. You also want to go a little bit deeper to make sure that you know how to use those words very clearly. Have you chosen strong, specific words? Or are you just choosing fancy words to try to look good? I've seen this happen quite a bit. People will choose gigantic words or words that seem like they would work in a particular piece, but they just don't match up very well. So make sure that you know those words and understand how to use them very well. Have I read my essay out loud to listen for good flow? Good use of vocabulary will create a good, natural, clean flow within the writing. Have I used accurate content-based words? So when you're writing a science paper, make sure that you're using science-based words and so forth. Have I used the terms from the reading, the research, the assignment, and so forth? So if you're working on a particular assignment, let's say in class for a particular topic, use the terms that are included within that topic in your writing. It will make things much clearer for your reader. And have I used an accurate level of specificity with my vocabulary? So make sure that you're being specific with your words without being overly so. You don't want to confuse your reader. So How could this be improved? Let's look at this example here. Blogging is great. I enjoy writing my blog about skateboarding tricks. I include pictures and some videos too. You should check out my blog. So in this example here, we have some good basic information. We don't have much in terms of details. We have a piece that is coming across as being marketing. So this writer here is trying to promote their blog so that people are more interested in reading it. But we need some more detail. We need some more depth. We need some good visual ideas here within the words to get those ideas across. Let's take a look at this example. You should not buy bottled water anymore. It is the same as tap water, which you can get for less than 1 penny. When you buy bottled water, the water companies are just taking water from lakes and shipping the water. Bottled water makes no sense. Okay, so here we have a little bit more depth in terms of the information that's given, but we still are lacking that really specific kind of good, strong vocabulary that's going to give us really strong visual ideas of what's going on here with this writing. This writer is trying to be persuasive. This writer is trying to convince the reader of something. So for the writer to do that, the writer needs to choose more persuasive, specific words to convince the reader. In terms of student expectations, what you want to do is use great vocabulary in all of your writing. Make sure that you're being clear, concise, and correct. Those are your 3 keys there: clear, concise, and correct. You want to make sure that you're sounding academic or professional depending upon the particular kind of writing that you're doing, the kind of assignment that you're doing. You want to be formal in school and keep informality at the proper level. It's going to be different for each assignment. At this point, what you should know and be able to do is to have a basic understanding of what vocabulary is, know why vocabulary is important in your writing, and definitely be able to edit and improve upon your writing. I hope this information has been helpful to you and helps you to improve your writing. Good luck to you.